Now, it's rather cold here today, the heating being off in the building, and you can probably hear some workmen busy cheering holes in the walls upstairs. But I want to talk about bankers. Not my most favourite people. Now, the RBS are putting billions away to pay potential fines, and this is billions of their depositors' money, of course. It doesn't actually belong to the bank. Well, no, it does belong to the bank, because when you give them money it becomes theirs. So they're going to spend your money on paying these fines, and basically these fines they're expecting are for fiddling the money exchange rates on the forex market, for gold price manipulation, and for a big IT fiasco that happened about a year and a half ago when millions of people, I think it was 17 million people, couldn't in fact get at their accounts. But they're paying these fines essentially with our money, and this is what banks do, which is not really good. So what can we do about corrupt banks? Well, let's have a think for a minute about the scale of the problem and see what similar things of a similar scale are actually punished by. So let's take an event everyone knows about, 9/11. Now, the people that were killed on 9/11 was 2,977 people on the day. There may or may not have been 1,400 cancer-related deaths since. That was difficult to prove, but we'll say 3,000. It cost $13 billion, which sounds a lot, but it's peanuts, as you'll come to see. Now, the consequence of that directly was the Iraq War. In the Iraq War, we killed 4,491 of our own people. That's more than were killed in 9/11. Think about that. So the terrorist kills 3,000, we kill 4,500 of our own people. But we also killed 1 million Iraqis. So, for killing 3,000 people and costing $13 billion, we kill over 1 million people, and it costs us $1.7 trillion to do it. So let's compare this to the 2008 crash. It has been estimated that over 3 years, the 2008 crash cost 5,000 suicides that would probably not otherwise have happened. So who says banking fraud is a victimless crime? Because people lose their livelihoods, people lose their dreams, people lose their futures. I lost my pension. So it's not a victimless crime. 5,000 deaths. That's more than 9/11. That's more than the terrorists managed. And the cost of the 2008 crash was, wait for this, $22 trillion. Now 9/11 only cost us 13 billion. So the 2008 crash, which was entirely caused by banking fraud, cost us a lot more than 9/11, killed more people. So what were our punishments? How did we punish these fraudulent bankers? We fined them a total of £100 billion, which was a heck of a lot less than they made from the frauds that they committed in the first place. There were no imprisonments. There was no real action taken against anybody. More regulation of the banking sector was promised, but didn't happen. So what can we conclude from this? Well, the first thing we can conclude is that fraudulent bankers are worse than terrorists. Worse by a long way. The next thing we can conclude is that our response when it comes to bankers is laughable. We penalise them by less than they actually make on the crime which they commit. You think about that. Now, let's think about applying the same logic to fraudulent bankers as we do to terrorism. Penalties for terrorism include death, torture, which is often used to gain information about other terrorists, and indefinite detention. Now, compare that to penalties for bankers after the 2008 crash, and indeed now. The penalty is that you, the citizen, pay a fine for them. They don't pay it. It doesn't come out of their personal accounts. It comes from the company. And the company's money is, guess what? It's your money. You should be angry about this. And people aren't. Why? I'm angry. Now, imprisonment is clearly not the answer, because if we look at those bankers who have been jailed for fraud, and in fact financial people who are jailed for fraud, which jails do they go to? They go to open prisons. They're allowed out. They can go to the bar for drinks. All that happens really is that Johnny Citizen, you and me, pick up the bill for their life in what amounts to a country rest home with a few restrictions. So imprisonment is not the answer. We really do need to look at how we penalise people who commit similar crimes, and I would suggest terrorism is a similar crime. Yes, we need a banking inquisition. All laughter aside, this is what we need. We need a government department, a force of people who are empowered to go into banks, who are empowered to ask anything, to see any document. And these people should be motivated to stamp out fraud. Now, as part of that, they should be able to use the same tools as are used on terrorists. That is to say, if someone is proven to have committed fraudulent actions, they should be able to take them away, indefinitely detain them, torture them to get the names of others, and the penalties, well, the penalties for being convicted of bank fraud should be high, and they should be obvious. It should be obvious that you cannot trust this person. So, for a medium-sized fraud, how about facial tattoos? Then you know you cannot trust this person, and this person cannot work in banking, finance, or anywhere that trust is required. Now, you say that tattoos can be removed. Yes, they can, but it rather depends on what you tattoo the person with. There are plenty of chemicals that can be added to the tattoo to make it permanent and to make it extend through the flesh, not just under the skin. And a simple tattoo of an F in the middle of the forehead would suffice. For more serious fraud, in addition to this, perhaps we should take a leaf from ISIS, and perhaps we should look at the removal of limbs, the removal of fingers, something which the banker is going to miss for the rest of his or her life. And then perhaps with penalties like this in place, the fraud will stop. The temptation to make that $6 or $7 million for yourself and $1 trillion for the company might disappear. Now it seems harsh, but look at what we've done so far. What we've done so far is nothing. Well, if you agree with any of this, if you think the message should get out, please share, please like, and please subscribe. Thank you very much. Bye.